and, and as soon as Instagram says, "Hey, we're up and running," I can jump on there and go, "Oops, you know what? I forgot. I forgot the main thing that I have." All right, looks like Instagram is a go. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the 100th episode of Hey Rockstar. Coming to you from several locations, from the DFW, from Nashville, Tennessee, from Andrews, America. It's going to be a good show. I can't wait to see all the guests we have today. We're bringing back some of my favorite. Well, actually, they're all good guests that I've had. But let's just go ahead and let me go ahead and do the thing. Miguel, hey, wake up. Do the thing, though.
And Miguel, do the thing, yo.
One, two, three. One, two, three. Let's go.
Hey Rockstar, welcome. This is a show devoted to bringing value to those interested in starting a side hustle or side business. Whether you're looking to be dual vocational, full-time, part-time, or sometime, I bet our stories will entertain you, encourage you, and empower you to become the rock star of your business and industry.
Man, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to have just some panelists, some guests that I sent out messages about a few weeks ago, and then some just a kind of last minute reminder because I want to bring back some guests that have been here before to just share about the topic today is the test of time. You know, anything worth doing is worth being or to persevere with, to keep moving forward. Great things take time to grow, to build. I was thinking about this right before this show started, and I'm about to introduce the guests that we have right now. Currently, we have some more coming on the way, but I was thinking one of my favorite phrases of this year is "I'm still here." You know, 2020 happened, the great beer bug of 2020, and after that, I can say I was still here. 2021 happened, and all the stuff we went through and we learned, having to re or just start from the ground up. I'm still here. 2022, that was a blur, but I'm still here. 2023 is finishing up. We're about to enter 2024, and I'm still here. And I know a lot of us are still moving forward. As long as we have breath, we have reason to be here. And I guess the word for me entering this new year is resilience. Keep going, keep hustling, keep moving forward. So let's just go around the panel, the people we have right now. The first one who showed up was Scott Kim. If you don't mind, Scott, just tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're at these days, and then we'll just get a little quick intro, my man.
All right, quick intro on me. I am a multidisciplinary artist. I have dabbled in just about everything: photography, illustration, abstract painting. Working on my chops in music right now, and then my other main creative project is turning video game consoles into fully functional art pieces for the living room using various metals. That's the short version.
And they're actually very creative pieces. If you have a chance, we'll share the links for all everyone's Instagrams later on. Eli Emiliano, welcome back to Hey Rockstar. Just tell us a little blur about yourself, quick description of who you are, what you're doing, if you don't mind, my man.
Yes, sir. It's so good to be back, Kosa. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be back on your podcast. And congratulations, podcast number 100. That is amazing. And great job. Proud of you, man. And it's so good to be part of this 100th episode and Rockstar. Hey, Rockstar. And I'm excited, man. We'll talk a little bit more about what I'm doing. Obviously, my big one right now is Tejano Faith y Familia. It's a radio show and streaming radio show, podcast show, whatever you want to call it. Spotify doesn't want to call it a podcast, but we'll talk about that later. But on all the other platforms, it's still a podcast, and it's going real good. We'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing on that and some other plans as well in 2024. So, yeah, it's good to be here, man.
I like that. Thank you so much, my man. And of course, the ever so oh man, I had a good word for you, but you know what? We'll just the entertainer himself, Mr. Alex Tinker the Fourth. Welcome back to the show. You're one of the OG guests I had. The second one, I believe, not the third one. No, the second one. Alex, what have you been up to, man? Give us a quick description about yourself.
I'm going to try and keep it short. Also, if my volume is all sorts of off, just
You're
let
good right
me
now.
know. Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to go with what Scott said. There he is. And I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I really like that, Scott. Seriously, that was really well said, my dude.
Thanks, Ben.
I got you. So, real quickly, I just put out a record. I'm an Americana artist with a little bit of I guess, old school rock and roll feel. I'm a songwriter here in Nashville. Most importantly, I am an MC. I'm actually, after our host, Mr. Josefat Emiliano himself, I am pushing myself in my public speaking art and the craft of MCing here in town. So that's fun. Also, kind of going off of the other Mr. Emiliano to my left, I have a podcast. It's called Kinder Spirits. It's all about positivity and how everyone can find their little thing, because kindness is in the little things. Outside of that, we are currently recording and editing season 2. Wow, I just hit something on my desk and it went flying. Currently recording season 2. I will say this much, though. I am more excited over all of those things to be on episode number 100 of Hey Rockstar. Come on now, Josefat. Jeez, oh Pete, this is like one of the coolest, man. This is awesome. Congratulations, brother.
Thank you. So the reason why, when I was making the thumbnail for this thing, as you can see, I love the thing that says level up. And on the bottom, it's supposed to say episode 100, but then I forgot to do it in 16:9 or whatever it is. So, of course, it cropped it off. But the very first picture was from episode 1, episode primero, the pirate rock star. And the funny thing is, when I first started this, I know we were just we were home we were working from home because of the pandemic. So I technically still had a job, but I wanted something to do, and I just started with where I was at. I started with what I had. I had an old laptop. I used the webcam from there. I thankfully had this little mic that I still use today for my Zoom calls, because it's a really good little mic, but I used to use it for like recording little things. So I used that to give me at least decent audio. And then I just had a story and I went with it. And of course, it's with time as needed. I upgraded cameras. I changed locations. I started putting lights. Once I learned about how to use lights, how to create the ambiance with things. And of course, we changed cameras along the way. And today I love the look that I have. I mean, actually, I love the look that I had back in season 2. Whenever I had my little gold monkey in the background, well, not a little gold ape. I don't know. That was cool because it was just so big. But I'm learning to work with what I have and just make it go, and just being faithful with what I have, and creating something and getting better and better. So with that, anyone would like to share? Maybe we can start from pandemic 2020, but I know some of you guys have been working even harder at your craft, at your trade when you first started. Who would like to say? Can remember the humble beginnings when they first started what they're doing today? Anyone want to just jump in?
I don't want to be the one that just kind of hogs the mic.
And,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Eli, if you want to take it, man, it's all you. I'm seriously, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right. I think the hardest
I'm just going back to the pandemic time as well. When we were at home, I think we got a delay somewhere, so we're gonna hold off. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep talking. And
keep going, Eli.
You'll catch up to me later. So, yeah. So, going back to the pandemic, I was at home, and I've always been in radio. Of course, I've been in radio since officially since 1988. I started 4 years before that, since I was 14. I'll be 53 this year, so I'm going on 39 years of being in radio broadcasting in one way or another. And during the pandemic, I started doing these lives on Facebook, and just for the fun of it, pretty much. And people started catching on, and they started listening and started watching. And I would do it, I don't know, every other night or things like that. And I had people chiming in from all over the country, Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, all kinds of places. So it was a pretty cool experience to be able to connect during a time of so much uncertainty and to some people fear and just a lot of chaos going on in the whole world, as a matter of fact, and being able to bring some joy to the people and entertain the people and laugh with the people, and not talk about the bad news, not talk about what was said in the news, but just bring some joy and some happiness. And after it was over, I just kind of took my foot off the pedal. And you said something the other night when I saw you, Jehoshaphat, in Andrews. You said, we're going to talk about consistency. And I kind of look back at it and I'm like, man, if we would have kept that going, a lot of more things could have happened. But you learn from those experiences. Yeah. I remember a quote that Michael Jordan uses we use from Michael Jordan all the time, where he says, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed. And that is such a powerful statement, because, as long as you're breathing, as long as you're alive, there's an opportunity, and there's an opportunity to make a difference, to touch somebody's life, impact somebody's life, be a blessing to somebody, encourage somebody, inspire somebody, give somebody a dream to want to do something as well. And I think that's what it's all about, man. And being bold and brave enough that, even though I always say I have a face of a DJ for radio, not a face for video, but I throw myself out there and just try to encourage people and be a blessing to somebody or inspire somebody to reach out for their dream, and they can do it as well. So anyway, that's my 2 cents from back from the pandemic, and some great things. I jumped back on the show that I have now called Tejano Faith y Familia. It was just a little project that we started, a friend of mine and he encouraged me to do it. It's really picking up. I remember a year ago, right before 2023, I said, I'm going to give it one more swing, because it was kind of slow, kind of dragging. I'm going to give it one more swing, one more year, and we'll see what happens with this show. Well, here we are at the end of the show, and man, some crazy stuff just happened with the show that opened up the door for us to be able to monetize on the show. And also, like, starting January 7th, I will be on 5 more online radios and radio stations. So it's like just at the end of the year, I was really literally around Thanksgiving saying, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I think we're going to wind it down. It's kind of dragging. And then all of a sudden, these doors just open up. And it's just crazy. Consistency. Just keep going. Just keep doing what you're doing. It only takes one person to see what you're doing and really like it and help you to be successful and monetize or whatever your whole plan is about it. So it just takes that one person. Just keep going. Just be consistent. Just not have more to say about it, but I'll pass the mic along. I can talk forever. Like Jose said, I'm a former preacher, so don't give me a microphone because I'll talk forever.
Dude, I remember last show we did together. You really preached on grace, and people needed to hear that. I heard people talk to me later like, man, your cousin brought some stuff I just need to hear. So, man, keep it at it. Who cares? We all got these gifts to share. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, consistency is the key. Is just keep moving forward. And even if you fall, there's scripture that says the righteous, though they fall 7 times, again they get up. One of my favorite promises is in Micah Rejoice not against me, O my enemy, for though I fall, I will rise again. For though I dwell in darkness, the Lord will be my light. Without further ado, Alex, what were you going to share with us, my man?
I mean,
Unmute.
how do you really kind of follow that up? That was a word
figure it
I
out.
needed. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I needed that word. No, it's unreal. Honestly, I think one of the biggest things that, and actually, hold on before I go through. Truly, you have no idea. I really did need that. That was outstanding. Because there have been too many times where I think, man, that interaction I just had with somebody, that one show that I hosted, that one show that I emceed, that one introduction where I might have lingered just a little bit and gave one extra compliment, was it really worth it? And then I'll have somebody reach out to me on social media that says, I don't know how you found the one thing that I am the most self-conscious about in my performance, but you found it and you just completely honed in on it. And now I have confidence where I previously had critique. And I needed that so much. So thank you so much for that. That was beautiful. I will say the one thing about the pandemic, because truly I think one of the biggest things that we all share is that we all lit that fuse in the pandemic. I feel like that was almost, we took control of the destiny that we have ahead of us. Kind of the path that we knew we were going to start walking. From music to podcasting to, honestly, everything I've emceeing, everything I have now found as part of my artistry was started during the pandemic. If I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you behind the curtain. So Scotty and I actually were roommates during the pandemic. How you doing, bud? It's good to see you again.
Doing good. Love you, boo.
So the whole thing is, during that time, I had a whiteboard that was in my room, and I used to write down my goals, and quite literally, like, massive goals. And on it had things like major things: get a house, pay off this card, whatever, But it also had this podcast, this record, this gig at this club, and I now went back and it's in storage. I just checked on it. I literally have checked off all of them except for a few boxes because of the dedication and the seeds that were sown during the pandemic. And it comes through kind of not just dedication and continuously moving forward, but I think the one thing is you have to know your heart. And one thing that you do very well, Josafat, in this show is you help other individuals discover things that they knew about themselves, but that weren't labeled. Like when you bring on a guest, much like Mr. Emiliano to my left, you're right. The biggest thing is when he spoke on grace, you had to understand that so many of us are our own worst critics. And we had to have grace for ourselves. Otherwise, we would give up every aspect of our artistry because we would think we were never good enough. And one thing that I think you do very well, Josafat, is you encourage us not just on the major stream. You encourage us on text message. You encourage us on phone calls. You encourage us on Facebook, Instagram messaging to dig a little deeper into our artistry in many different ways. And one thing that I can truly speak on is, had it not been for those messages and that development, I don't know if I would have pursued being an MC. And now I'm an MC for one of the best nights of music in Nashville, in a place called Leaper's Fork on Thursday nights at Fox and Lock. And it's now where we have Winona Judd showing up, or different major artists that are just, hey, I'm going to come show up, and I'm the one who gets to announce them. I would not have kept going with that had it not been for, hey, you have what it takes. I really think you need to look into public speaking. That was you, my dude. That was you, brother. And honestly, that might be one of the biggest things that has come from this is the pandemic. I didn't necessarily start I didn't start Kinder Spirits until after your first episode and watching the first couple episodes. So, full transparency, I truly have very deep roots, and I'm so proud of the 100th show because without it, I don't know what parts of my artistry would look like. So I'm very proud of you, my brother, and I'm very thankful because my development has really come to fruition because of your planting the seeds in us, man. Thank you.
You honor me, good sir. I'm going to bring in the fifth guest. I don't know if her camera's on or not. Speaking of people who, I want to see if I can, what it look like if I do this. Bam, there we go. We're a little tighter now. Speaking about people who had podcasts before, Judith Espinosa and one of my best friends, Joe Sanchez, they both had launched podcasts during the pandemic or maybe right before it. And I was looking to do something and they were trying to get me to start it. And that's when, like, you know what, I'll just do live stream. That's what I want to do anyway. And so, Joe's telling me how the statics, not the statics, the statistics show that you got to make it to at least the 7th episode. Make it to the 7th episode, you got yourself a podcast show. And so I started working on it, and thankfully now we're here, 100th episode. Has it been easy? No, absolutely not. There's actually times when I had silence because of just overwhelmed with work, my situation of loss. I know a lot of us have gone through loss during these few years, and things change. We're probably not where we were at when we first did the interview not so long ago, or some maybe are exactly where we're at, and that's what bugs us because we haven't really moved, but yet we're still faithful because there's just something driving us forward, because we know that sooner or later this piece of coal, the pressure applied to it, is going to become the diamond that we've been expecting. So Miss Judy, are you there? Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Or we're not going to get to see your face today.
No, not today because I'm driving. And actually, I think we should correct that. When you first started, you would say, as long as I have beat Judy, as long as I have one more episode than what Judy has, we're good.
I do remember that. Because you were on the road, you had like, I don't remember how many episodes. Like, man, I need to catch up with her. As long as I get to where she's at, we'll be good. But
and here we are. You definitely bypassed me for sure. I only did one season, and then it was a moment where I had to sit and take stock and just really think about the amount of work I was putting into it and what kind of reward was I getting personally. And I just realized, as a mom, I have 2 teenagers. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have to make some decisions. And so I decided to just put that. I can say I did it for a full season. I come to anything and everything very methodically, organized. I had my calendar set for one full season, and then I realized, you know what, that was a goal. I accomplished it, and on to the next one. And so, and yeah, that's what happened.
no, we lost Scott. Oh, no, there's Scott. Don't worry, man. I'm about to come back to you, Scott. Judy, for those of you who don't remember that episode, Judy wears many hats. Apart from having a full-time job in the education system, university system, she also has her own business, and she sets up some amazing backdrops or back walls for events and such. And I love that I got to sit down and listen to you share your story with Zeke about your first the big one that happened in New York and how that happened. And I didn't really know the details in that story on how they found you. And I love how you just were sincere and said, honestly, I just had a simple, clean website, and that's what drew their attention. One thing that I can appreciate about you is when you decided to do something, you went at it. Like, you had your plan. Like you said, you're systematic. You had things set up. I'm nowhere near that organized, but also you took really good advantage of what you had on hand. Like, you had students that were designing thumbnails for you and all this stuff. And I was like, just blown away from just how much prep you put into this. And of course you had an awesome co-star too, who brought in her unique flavor to it all. So, I mean, it was good what you had. Sad that you didn't keep it going, but of course it was choices you have to make. And us as leaders and entrepreneurs, we got to do choices. We got to decide, what is it that I'm willing to continue on I'm burning the oil for? What is it that I'm willing to keep paying the price for? And what's okay for me to set aside? It's not a failure, or maybe some people see it as a failure, but it's like, to me, it's not. We never fail. We learn lessons and
Absolutely.
move forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If I can just say, I think one thing that I've learned in this past few years, and I think as an adult, um, simply because to have the courage to say, you know what, I did my research, I made a decision, and I'm sticking to this decision. It doesn't matter what you say. And this is the decision that's best for me. And having that courage to be your own advocate, regardless. That's one thing that I've learned. And I remember when I was in grad school, I had one of my professors tell me, she's like, no one will be able to advocate for you like yourself. And it didn't really resonate for me until like as I've gotten older, and it's something that I tell my kids too, where I'm like, no one's gonna fight for you as your own person. My job to be as a mom is to just give you the tools so that way you can go out there and not just be successful. I want you to thrive. I want you to be a freaking badass in this world. And my job is to give you those tools so you can be there. And so it's definitely, I haven't been able to pursue, let me rephrase this. I made a conscious decision to pump the brakes on my business, to spend some time and be there. I have a senior and a junior, and all of a sudden I just feel like time is flying by. And I realize that I will not get that time back. And so I've done some like smaller personal goals. And so like making my comeback later on, but I'm cultivating some really deep relationships with my children, so that way I know that that foundation is set for us as adults. And so yeah, but anyhow, long tangent, but yes, 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 yes.
Thank you. Thank you for being honest and open. And people need to hear that too. It's okay to say no. It's okay to choose what's important to you and go for that goal, or remake your goal sometimes.
Pivot.
I'm now at a point where I have to sit down and I rewrite things down and try to re-envision the bigger picture. I see where I am, where I'm going, and then like, all right, what has changed? What passions has changed for me? What pursuits do I now have? Anyway, Scott, do you want to add anything to our last question?
Let's see. Would you give me a reprompt? Because it's been a few minutes.
We were talking about just the consistency, things that we've been faithful to through like just through life, and we kind of talked about how things changed for us during the pandemic. That was like a sudden change for us.
Yep. Cool. Consistency is the name of the game, but also recovery from failure. And that's kind of a theme that I've heard echoed from everybody so far. But I was thinking today about what consistency is, what makes consistency. And I was thinking along the lines of that there are, in short, two different types of consistency. There's consistency in the face of adversity, where life is trying to beat something out of your hands and you will not let go. And then there's consistency in the face of monotony, where there is no direct challenge other than your own heart, your own emotions, and wanting to do other things. In a lot of areas, I felt like I've done pretty well in the form of consistency against adversity. But a common failure point for me in my past has been consistency with monotony. So that's an area that I am looking to create growth and transformation in. And then I was also contemplating the story of King David in the Bible and how he had been consistent in the face of hardship. And then once he reached kinghood, kingdom, got his throne, he had a couple very, very big, very costly failures. There was the one where he slept with Bathsheba and then had her husband killed to cover it up. And then there was another one where he took a consensus of the fighting age men in Israel, and that was something that was forbidden in the law, and God brought some judgment in for that. But what stood out to me was that while David had these very big character failures, things that the adultery and murder side we would consider to be appalling, and what made him stand out, what made him different from some of the other characters in the Bible who had appalling moral failures, is that when he was confronted over it, he got on his face and put everything he had into turning around and making it right with God. And I think that is a very big lesson for us, because we may fail in consistency in small things where, let's see, where there's nobody alongside us to correct us. And for those, we have to listen to our own heart. And I believe that even when you don't have human eyes to see you, God has eyes on you, and God will bring you something to check you. And how you respond to that determines the outcome. Are you going to listen to the check and obey it and turn yourself around? Or are you going to wait for something harder to come and check you? Because it will come. I went off on a little bit of a sermon-y tangent on that, but I have some of my own story to talk about too. And my own story is following the consistency of passion. I called myself a multidisciplinary artist when I first introduced myself. But if you asked younger me, I would not have called myself an artist. I was interested in the sciences and I loved art, but I believed that I had no artistic ability. And what changed that was that it was a combination of a burning desire and a few people along the path, like Alex mentioned, saying that they saw something in me. So when I was I'll abridge this some. When I was in high school, I fell in with a group of creative friends. I was frustrated because I felt like I loved art as much or more than they did. Like I would spend hours a day just looking at art online because I loved it. And I was significantly less competent than they were. I think a lot of people assume that when an artist says that their own work is not good, it's just the artist being super humble or too hard on themselves. But no, like my early stuff, you could not tell it apart from anybody else or a child's drawing. It's like they were not good. But I had to do it. And I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it. And over time, I started to develop a voice, a style. And a lot of my voice, a lot of my style actually came from my failures and my limitations. Because of my limitations, I had to find ways around them, new ways of doing things, and that developed a little bit of flavor that's different from other people's styles. And then one of the other things that really shaped my voice was that I committed to drawing only in pen. I realized that I would redraw the same lines over and over again when I was using pencil because I wanted it to be perfect. And I switched to drawing only in pen so that A, I would have to be intentional, and B, if I messed up, I had to find a way to make that mess up count for something. And a lot of my favorite techniques, a lot of my favorite things that came about in my illustration were from making a mistake and having to invent a way to make it count for something. And that is a principle that I've carried forward to other areas in my life. And then I think I will touch on one or two more concepts and then pass the mic off. We've talked about when do you walk away from something? When is consistency not the right choice? Like Eli, I also had a show during the pandemic. I live streamed on Twitch. And I'm very grateful for that time. It grew me. And it also gave an opportunity to connect with people and experience some joy in what was otherwise a very isolating time. When the pandemic lightened up and the world started to open, the internet traffic also started to disappear. And I came to the conclusion that it was time to let it go and focus on real life. So my internet presence, my social media has basically gone underground, but I've been hard at work refining myself, building my skills, my abilities, and my resources. And I expect that there will be a time where it's time for me to resurface again. But I realized that the value that I needed to be working on creating for the season was not value in other people's eyes, but rather a value of and refining and deepening what I have to offer. And then another thought is that when you let something go, when you walk away from something, you can think of it as fertilizer. Rather than going in the trash to go to a landfill and rot, when you let something go well, you can return it to the soil of your heart, return it to the soil of your life, and the nutrients can find their way into other pursuits. The nutrients can be your passion. The nutrients can be skills and abilities that you developed along the way. Like I talked about going through a lot of artistic disciplines, and I developed some level of competency in all of them. But there have also been times where I have put one aside to focus on another. And the one that I put aside, even though it is no longer on the stage, it still feeds the other disciplines. Those skills and abilities become embedded in you, and they carry themselves into other things that you do. I think those are the big thoughts for me.
Appreciate you, man. Man, you took me back to Twitch. I remember whenever I did Twitch, and I went back. Someone had mentioned it. I went back recently just to see if it's still there and to see what's become of it. And it really has changed. It's not the same that it used to be. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm just like, it's just. I'm glad that I had to move that. I had to move on from that. I made that decision, and then of course I've changed. For example, from Twitch, I jumped on. I was doing Periscope for a while through Twitter, and then from there I jumped to what's the other one? Oh, LinkedIn, because LinkedIn allowed it. But and at first I received I received a little bit of traffic, but now I'm not seeing it. So now I realize I have a chance to stream on Instagram, and actually have people on Instagram right now that are jumping on. I want to say a shout out to them. One thing I didn't mention, if anyone wants to drop a comment, you're more than welcome to drop it off, ask a question. I can highlight it. We can discuss it. Whether you put it on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, I'll be able to, well, I probably won't be able to highlight on Instagram, but I'll at least be able to read it out loud and share with you guys. But it's true what you just said. And I guess this is the question I want to ask everyone, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit more, is in this process of growth, in this process of doing things, we've had to learn to let go of everything. We had to not let everything. We had to learn to let go of certain things. We learned that, this served us for a season, but it no longer serves us now. For example, I I was doing sales. I was going door to door doing sales, and eventually I got into the high ticket. But when I was working with this company, It was okay. It was good. But that's when also whenever I started having big gaps with the show, I started having big gaps with this show, and I'm like, I remember I found myself just thinking to myself, I'm not happy. I'm not happy, and I had to ask myself, well, what would bring me back happiness? What season did I find myself that I was actually enjoying? I know it's not about being happy, but I'm a single guy, so I don't have certain responsibilities other than just paying bills. Like what can I do to still pay bills and not and get, or what brought me happiness? And that's like the show, bring creatives, telling the stories of others. And so I started asking myself, well, what can I do to go back and do the show? Well, I'm gonna have to change careers. And now what I'm building, now that I'm working in the coaching sector, I'm excited to share later on what I'm about to do, launching next year, January 1st. I have a big project where it's pretty much set up. I've been working on for the past few days as much as I can, getting the final details up and ready. And I'm excited because I also get to do this show. And the show brings strength to me and brings life to me because I love just sharing the stories of others. I love entertaining. I love putting on production. I realized that's a gifting that was well cultivated during my time at The Belonging. I learned how to work behind the scenes and do it well. And I can now utilize that for this, and of course for the coaching program that I'm about to launch. Would anybody like to share other things? Right now, I'm just want to say shout out to Mark Anthony Estrada. He was a guest not too long ago. He's saying everyone is bringing such high energy. Yes, we are. We're here. Mark, thank you for being. Sorry to invite you to this, but this is like season 1, season 2 guest, not so much season 4 guest. But I love your comment. He's giving a shout out from Instagram. But yeah. On that note, would anyone like to add on to that thought? What's something, and Judy kind of already added something she learned. She needed to give up this thing. Maybe not give it up totally, but at least put a pause to it, to the business aspect or whatever, to focus on what's important to her. Her kids are growing up. Anyone else want to share something that you've learned that you've had to either sacrifice or say not right now, so that I can focus on this other thing? I know it's kind of open-ended.
You're on mute, Eli.
Okay, there we go. I want to chime in on that. It kind of hits close to home. Of course, I mentioned earlier I've been in radio for almost 40 years now. That's incredible, man. I'm so freaking old. But anyway, along with being in radio, I've always been in ministry as well, as a associate pastor, lead pastor, whatever, a pastor capacity. So during the pandemic, we kind of put that on hold, and then I kind of stayed on a little bit longer on staff at the church where I was at. And a year ago exactly, I had that conversation with my family, with the church, and I stepped completely away from that role as a pastor. Man, that was freaking hard. That was so difficult, something that I've done for, most of my life. And to step away from that, you said it, even though you're a pastor and you're leading people, there's still an adrenaline rush with the, performance part or the charisma part, or having to keep the people engaged in your public speaking. And it became like a drug, man. It became like, a hit, it's like, it would get me excited. Thursdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, I'm excited, getting ready, studying, prepping. And man, Saturday, it's my, I would call it my PMS, which was pre-message syndrome. So nobody messed with me, nobody talked to me, I'm focused. And then here comes Sunday, and it's time to perform and bring that message. But man, after that hit goes away, it's crazy, man. It's like, a deep down. It's like whatever. I've never used drugs or anything, but you get that one. I've heard of stories of that. It's just that drop. It's like, and getting away from that for a whole year, or since a year ago, it's been difficult. The first part of this year, 2023, was very, very difficult. And then it dawned on me as the radio show started to pick up. My radio show is a bilingual show. It's Spanish music. It's Tejano music. I play your traditional Tejano artist. It's not just quote unquote Christian Tejano. I don't know what that means. We use that term so loosely. I didn't know music could be Christian or not, or Tejano music could be Christian. But so you can understand what I'm trying to say. It's your traditional Tejano. It's your popular Tejano music. And at first, it was like, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? Da 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 da. Your background, your all these years, but in my program, in my show, I include a 1-minute family segment with family values, and I include a 1-minute segment on grace, on the grace of God, on faith. And I've gotten so much response from that. I mean, it's incredible. You would figure, hey, I like the music, but at the end of the day, the music is music. You can hear that at a taqueria, you can hear that on the radio or on YouTube or in a commercial. But being able to bring those short segments, people started responding to that, messages from all over the country, literally. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm doing the same thing, just on a different platform. Had I not shut down that a year ago, I wouldn't have had the opportunity that I have now to reach a different crowd, different kind of people that don't go to church on Sunday. They're probably listening to my show hungover. They're probably, coming home or whatever, going to work or whatever, and they're listening to my show. And I'm still able to bring a positive message into their lives while I entertain them with the music that they like. And as I mentioned earlier, it's been amazing, the doors that have opened up in the last 2 weeks for my show. That, as we talk about this, I'm like, what if I would have, like Scott said, what if I would have hung on to that, just out of because this is what I know how to do and this is what I'm going to do all my life, and not let go of, being quote unquote in church, serving in church. But which, by the way, you don't serve church, you serve the church with the capital C. Your service is not to a building or an organization, it's to people. And when you serve people, you're serving the church. When you're bringing life and benefit and joy and encouragement and inspiration to people, you're serving the church. I think one of the biggest servers in all history was Mother Teresa, because she wasn't serving an organization. She was actually serving people. And that's what it's all about, man. When you serve people, when you help people, then the things that you need will begin to happen in your life. It's not about what you want, what you need, what you want to do. It's about reaching out to the people. And then in turn, it's a principle. You sow, you reap. And it's just one of those things. I'm so glad that I had the courage and I had the people around me to say, hey, it's okay. It's okay to let go of that time in your life. It's okay to let go of all those years, decades of your life that you spent there. And now let's go to a different platform. Let's use a different way of communicating to people. And it's been great, man. So that's just one of my life stories or examples that I can say that has really been turned out real positive for me, and being able to say, okay, it's time to close that chapter and it's time to move on.
I love that, man. Some of the best conversations I had in the entertainment industry were around the craft table of ministry, were around the craft table, when people were just talking, sharing, and they would ask me questions like, hey, there's something different about you. And I'm just being sincere and honest. And they had questions and whatever. And we were able to have just an open book conversations. And of course, I don't come with you guys know me. I'm more chill, down to earth, opening to just talk to people and just loving on them where they're at. I love that. I love that the doors are open up for you in that aspect. And I don't know. I was thinking about just yeah, it makes sense. The talents. I have a mentor who he says that your gifts are not for you; they're for others. You are the tree. The fruit you produce. Think about it. A tree doesn't need its own fruit. The fruit that the tree produces is for others to enjoy. And that's why what we bring to the table, what we bring to it's meant for others to be lifted up, to be encouraged, to find hope and find answers. Anyone else want to add anything to this little question?
Do you mind if I jump in? Oh, wait, Scott raised his hand. I'm going to respect that. Go ahead, buddy.
All right. My roommate has arrived and is starting a game night. So I'm going to turn my mic down a little bit and try to speak a little bit louder, and hopefully it'll work. Can you guys still hear me well?
I can hear you, man.
Cool. All right. So for me, the hardest thing that I have ever had to walk away from was identity. When I picked up music as a discipline, I went full tilt into it, and I had built my sense of self around it. I felt it deep in my blood, and I could see my gifts operating in it. And so I thought that is who I was and what I was destined to be. And there came a season of extreme difficulty in the circumstances of my life, where it became something that was no longer viable for me to hold on to. I couldn't keep it. And while we're talking about consistency, I think consistency, it has its place, but there's also that time to lay things down, which we've talked about a little bit. But to go a little bit deeper in that is that, like, when something is untenable and you know it's right to let it go, versus when something seems untenable, but your heart tells you that it's right to hold on, there's a difference. When you know it's right to let it go, there's a grief with that. And my grief was not just that I was losing something that I loved, it was that I was losing who I thought I was. And there was a time of untangling where I had to realize that even though my gifts were on display in this area, that doesn't mean that those gifts were only for that area. Also, there's that time of, like Eli was talking about, detaching from the praise or the fame of it. Like I think he was accurate to call it a drug. And when you start to let that drug in and influence your sense of self, that's when it has teeth in you. So as much as it was excruciatingly difficult to go through that season and lose it, I am also grateful for it in many regards, because I found the things that were true in me apart from that specific presentation or manifestation of me. I would say that I got more in touch with a deeper and more fundamental truth of who Scott is and who he's been created to be. Those are the thoughts. Somebody take the wheel.
Hey, Josephat, I think you are muted, brother.
I thank you for that, Scott. It's my first episode. It's not the 100th episode. No, I'm saying that I could add some more about identity, and especially figuring out who you really are, and then, or more importantly, who you were created to be. But I want Alex to share what he wanted to share earlier.
Mine's really short, and I wish I would have gone before Scott, to be honest with you. I took a lot from what Eli said in his message with the audience, how the audience comes to you changes, but what you do and how you say it never really never really changes if you are doing what you're supposed to. One of the big things that honestly is a theme throughout all of my art is not toxic positivity, mind you, but just positivity and kindness. And that is in the emceeing, that is on the podcast, that is on the songs that I write, the songs about recovery, the songs about hardship, difficulty, songs about getting through difficult times, all of that. I mean, the theme is the same. How the audience hears it is different. So let's just say from the pandemic era, I was putting out episodes of Kinder Spirits, burning myself out very quickly by trying to meet deadlines and this very rigorous kind of schedule. I was meeting people in the UK. I was regularly connecting with people in there was a podcast based out of India that I was talking to, but full transparency, I burned out very, very quickly from that. Whereas my songwriting at the same point in time was, as much as I was burning out here, the flame was lit very, very fierce. So it's difficult. And going back to the original question, how do you know when to step away for a season, or how do you know when to deviate from the path that you're on? I feel like as artists, as creatives, we always try to find what is working at this moment. Now, there are always themes that underlie it, but it's what is working at this moment for us. And that's going back to the drug that Eli was saying, the dopamine. That's the dopamine release is what is going to get me that high. And I hate calling it that, but that's what it really was. And if I was to try to record the record that I just put out back in 2020, I would not be I would be ashamed of what it would have sounded like. And I'm being very honest here. I may have had the songs back then, but what I needed, the perspective that I needed from the seasons that have occurred in other forms of artistry, the emceeing, the public speaking in town, working with nonprofit organizations and philanthropies. That's what I do 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, is I work with philanthropies. Giving all of that perspective, it adds so many more colors to the palette. So how do you know when to step away if you don't have enough colors for the painting that you're trying to put out? And one of the things that I found is I have a lot of different colors, a lot of tools in the toolbox. Let's use. So many people understand that metaphor. You get so many tools from everything that you do. This experience might have been a hammer for many different reasons. It might have beat you into a new way of thinking. But other things, that might be a screwdriver. That's a saw. That's that's going to be a wrench. And if you get up to the next step into the next season, you may sit back and say, wow, I really want to bring insert thing here. And this is going to be my focus. Maybe this is just me. Maybe this is just my ADHD brain. And maybe this is a touch of autism kind of thrown in there. I don't know. We're going to find out here. But it's how I operate. And one of the things is I knew in the season I was in last year that I had all of the tools that I needed to build my record. And the tools that I didn't have, I knew I was ready to not be ready. And one of the things I like the most is I stepped away from Kinder Spirits. I stepped away a little bit on emceeing, but I dedicated time, and I knew that I had all the tools that I needed to put out a record. Now, looking back, my next record, everybody's like, oh, that was great. Are you going to start working on it? Not even close. I am not even going to go into that right now because I know I need about 2 or 3 more tools that I'm going to get from expanding these other areas because I saw where I was weak when I made this record and I worked on it as much as I could. Right. And again, Scott made a great point of going through and listening to the awareness and the honing of the craft when it's just you. Scott, I forget how you worded it, but that was, I hope I'm giving it credit. But I learned a lot about myself, and you have to have that awareness. And you especially have to have that awareness to say, I don't have enough tools in my toolbox to do this. But I'm going to keep growing, and I'm going to keep in mind where I want to go with it. And I'm going to keep taking up these other projects that are going to help me get more colors, more tools. I think, honestly, knowing yourself, having that the understanding of where you want to go, but also knowing exactly what you're capable of. It, to a fault, you have to know. Pride can't get in the way here.
Mm.
You have to let yourself be blunt with yourself and say, hey, I know you think you're good at that, bud, but let's put a little bit more time in the gym. Let's put a little bit more practice in. And that's, no matter where it is, that's how you get those tools. That's how you get those colors. That's how you get all the different shades. I mean, how do you know when to step away from a season? You know yourself.
I think that's really important. And if I can just add on to that, I just finished this book called Wanting the Power of Mimetic Desire by Luke Burgess. And he said something that was really interesting, and how important it is to know your values and to categorize your values, because we will always find ourselves in a spot where we are conflicted and we don't know what to do. And he recommends, if you know your values and if you can put them in order, that'll help you decide which route you need to go according to your values. And I really do think that, one, going on to, it's important to know yourself, and we don't really know how to know. A lot of us don't know what our values are. How can we align our actions to whatever that is if we don't know what that is? How can I align my actions to my values? I think that's interesting. I am remembering the scripture. It's been a long time. Is like, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. And I remember hearing this all the time. And when I was younger, and I'm like, people always said, I remember hearing my parents like, oh, well, don't treasure the earthly things. And they really tied that down to material things. But it was this past year, I realized my actions will always support where my heart is. I might say, oh, um I value being healthy, but the reality is my actions don't do that. I'm just lying. And I did a pulse check with my kids. I asked them each separately, if someone was to ask you what is important to your mom, what would you say? And they told me each differently. And I'm like, you know what? I am okay with how my kids see, and the way they see my values, that does align with who I see myself as. Does that make sense? And I think it's always good to ask other people, like, hey, what is it that you see in me? Constantly keeping yourself accountable, that personal reflection, because sometimes what you think is not what everybody else sees.
Yeah.
And it's the sense of accountability. And I think that's also where you also get a chance to really self-develop. I love this term of evolution, not so much change, or growth, better said, because growth can be sporadic, but evolution is intentional. It's like you're pruning, like you're honing
Mm.
in on these specific skills that you need. Growth can be sporadic, it can be uncontrolled. Evolution, laser driven. Anyhow, that's just something that came to mind.
You said something that's really, really spot on. The importance on surrounding yourself with like the good support system, the people that you need to the iron sharpened iron with, and that has definitely changed for me as I move into different areas of my life as things are growing, and it's part of that sacrifice when you, it's not with certain acquaintances or certain connections, it's not that you don't love them less, it's just they're not going to where you need to go, and so you can't give them as much time as they would like. And that goes back to, because Judith and I had this conversation about values, like, well, my values, according to my values, I need to, I want to grow, and I need people who will push me towards this direction. But those who are just okay and they're like, you know what, I don't feel like growing. I love you, and if you need me, we'll try to set up some time. But right now, I can't give you 100% of my time, because I want to spend the time with those who are pushing me, who are lifting me, and how important it is to just surround your acquaintances. Another mentor of mine once told me the fastest way to grow is to change the people you hang out with, especially if you're looking at where you want to go up there. What we got here? I got a Joe said preach earlier, so I gotta highlight the Alex Tinker. Growth can be sporadic, evolution is intentional, by Judith Espinosa. That's a good quote. But on that note, we can stay here as long as we want. It doesn't matter. But I do have at least one final question. If anyone else shows up, we'll might highlight them. But now we are looking towards where we're going forward. We've learned to, or actually, before we go there, what things are you implementing in your lives for growth? If you don't mind sharing, what are some tools, like I was talking about, what are some tools that you've learned to adapt, to take on, to use? And I'll throw in my first one. The first one I'm working on is meditation. Meditate, and just share one or two if you want. But to me, I've learned to define meditation as practiced focus. When you learn to quiet the noise around you, to focus on the one specific thing. And that's how I treat meditation, especially when it comes to problem solving, or just comes to just seeing where I want to go. When I learn to kind of silence all the noise around me so I can focus on this intention, it's become a superpower. Or if I'm living in chaos, I learn how to silence the noise around me so that I can focus on what needs to be working on. So that's a practice that has really helped me, quantum leaps move forward. Would anybody else like to share a super tool or something that they're using to help them on their growth journey, on their purpose journey?
May I say something before because I'm gonna have to jump away. I'm gonna meet up with some friends. For me, finding a challenge, like a project every year, and I dedicate to that, that really helps me. I like something like a meta project where I can obtain different skills. I just did a marathon, my first marathon. I told myself I would never do that. And I learned so much on that trail. Like, I really had to dismantle some limiting beliefs. Meditation, like, I had to, a lot of the preparation for that. And that it helps me translate. Like, I was able to do something here in this lane. I can also take those skills and do that in a different lane. And folks, doing a marathon is no joke. And I was like, holy smokes, I can do something really, really hard. And now I'm like, okay, what does it take to run for 3 hours, like when you don't want to, and then to take those skills and meditate for 3 hours when you don't want to? Now that's a whole different ballgame. Like meditation, I think that's an amazing, amazing thing to do. So that is something that I do to do. Like I like to think of a word every year. I think of a word that's sort of like I concrete on, and I just like that's my root word for the year. For 2024, I think it's going to be present. And then from there, I just sort of like all of my goals tend to circle around that, and I just that's something that just really resonated with me last year. 2023 was alignment. I'm gonna have to come back and revisit that one because I learned a lot. I and I think present is going to be a good word to help me go back and reflect on everything else I've been working on for the past few years and just start bringing things to the table. So that's something that I do. But I'm so sorry I had to jump away, but I had to jump on and just say congratulations. I love hearing everybody's stories. I'm going to come back and finish listening. Yes, thank you for this opportunity.
Have a great rest of your day, Judith. Thank you for showing up.
Bye.
Who would like to go next?
So I'll go ahead and just add a little bit on that. One of the things, meditation has been one of my things that I've started to do here in the last year. Just the whole process of it, just everything. I've been listening, ebooks, reading, just getting into it really, really as deep as I can. But one of the things that has helped me in the past is also being vocal. Like we tend to say negative things to ourselves, but I've practiced on speaking who I am, in Christ, the power within me, the ability that I have. And it's really, I've seen amazing things happen, in my life. When I first moved here to Dallas, Fort Worth, course, I've been in ministry all my life. I had no idea what corporate America was all about. I move over here. The financial part of it didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out where I was at or where I was coming to. So, I had to reach out and figure something out. And I got into a bank. Well, in my interview for the bank, I had a friend of mine, she's part of the bank. She's been through the whole process and she's giving me all these instructions. She goes, they're going to ask you this. You need to answer like this. You're going to do this. And I mean, I was taking notes. And then as I'm driving to the interview, I don't want to make the story long. I'm going to shorten it down. As I'm driving to the interview, I kind of drifted away from all the instructions she gave me. And I was like, wait a minute. I am smart enough. I do have charisma. I do have God's grace. I do have God's favor. I am good enough for this job. And I was just talking to myself on the way up there. Well, I get to the interview and whatever it was, but we talked about everything except the job. We talked about life. We talked about family. We talked about everything except the job. And all the questions that they told me that they were going to ask me just went out the window. Like I said, we laughed, we talked. She brought me coffee. And, and at the end, she was like, I like you. I'm going to give you the job. But this is corporate America. This is a major bank in America. And, and it was like crazy. I got in the car and was like, oh, my gosh. Does she know that I've never worked in a bank before in my life? And she's giving me this position. But it's like, I think, we have the tendency, what you speak becomes reality in your life. We have the power to create our future, and to build our future, to, make our future crumble before us by the way we speak and the words that come out of our mouth. And I think that's been something that I used a lot, the last few years now, including meditation to clear the mindset, to clear the thoughts, to clear the heart, and get in that space, in that garden of my heart, and hear my heart and have my heart hear God's heart, and just know that He's guiding me no matter where I go. And I'll close with this. I heard somebody say, well, are you sure you want to stop doing that church thing? Because you might be out of the will of God. And I was like, no, the will of God is in me. So whatever I do and wherever I go, He is in me. And because He is in me, I am in the will of God. And I'll close with that.
Oh man, I want to speak on that right now, if you don't mind, Alex, or whoever's going to go next, Alex or Scott. But this happened to me Sunday. I went to go help play at my dad's church, and this lady came up to me. She goes, "How you doing, future pastor of the church?" And I looked at her like, I don't know if that's me. And she's like, well, and she was kind of taken aback. And she goes, look, and how did she word it? She worded it like, well, I mean, are you, how long have you been like going against God's will? Like, whoa. God has talking to me. I talk to God all the time. And matter of fact, every day I give Holy Spirit permission to check my heart. And I'm saying, whatever you want, I'm willing to go for it. I'm not saying it's definitely no. It's just He hasn't told me, yes, this is your next call. This is what you meant to do. But it's funny. She goes, well, is it this church or just any church? Like, right now, I am not feeling led to be a pastor. Now, whether He changes me in the future, it's up to Him. He can do whatever He wants. But for now, I'm listening. I'm learning to be faithful. I take that Holy Spirit spoke to me through like the story of the young prophet who listened to the old prophet who literally lied to him. And the moral of the story is, if you hear God's voice, listen to what God's telling you. Follow His lead for you. Follow what you've been created to do. Be obedient to that. Walk in obedience to that. And whatever God calls, I'm willing to do. But anyway, no, that reminded me of that too. You just said that, and I had to learn to be firm and tell people, hey, I get it, but God hasn't told me this, and I'm not in any rebellion. I am definitely not in rebellion. I'm open and always looking for guidance, but I'm going where I believe He's leading me so far. Anyway, anyone would like to add any other tools they have?
Actually, can I jump on to what we're talking about real quickly? And I'll wrap up with tools. But this is something that I don't actually I'm not vocal about at the shows that I host. See, I'm not trying to say anything bad about any perspectives of any musicians or anything here. Oh dear, I think we lost. Did we lose Josaphat? Oh goodness. Oh goodness.
We
There
lost
he
the
is.
pilot.
We lost
Our
our
show now.
pilot.
Going,
Oh
There
keep
my
he
god.
is.
going.
We
Keep going,
lost
y'all.
our pilot. Jeez, oh Pete. Okay, so what I'm gonna say is it's very hard in certain situations, or I used to think, let me say that. I used to think it was very hard to bring the Holy Spirit into a bar to host a round because there are other spirits that those individuals want to consume more. They're just in bottles along the wall. And one thing that I used to think, again, a couple years back now, we're going into 2024, so almost about 4 years ago. And I used to sit back and I used to think these people don't want to hear the Holy Spirit. They just want to be entertained. But then I heard I was doing so I grew up Catholic, and there's a father who he has a tie to 9/11, and I do not remember what it is. But he has a prayer, and I learned this prayer a long time ago, and it was, Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want to say, and keep me out of your way. And I realized when that came into play, when that prayer started coming in, I actually say it every time before I grab the microphone in any venue that I'm in. Because if there is something that is going to resonate with people, and in a very boiled down way, when people ask me how I get through to some people that may not have that relationship that we talk about here, I'll sit back and I'll say, well, are you a person of faith? And if they look and they're like, faith in what, man? Faith in and I said, in the world, in just faith in the universe, like, oh yeah. I'm like, put good out, get good back. They're like, oh yeah, absolutely, put good out, get good back, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, you love other people and they'll love you, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, cool, God is love. That's my faith. There you go. There's a lot more to it, but that's the basis. So when y'all are talking about bringing, when y'all are talking about what to say, how to connect, how to bring the perspective, that prayer, the last two lines, tell me what you want to say and keep me out of your way. Anytime as a content creator, as an artist, as a host, as a public speaker, that should be in the back of our mind, but in the forefront of our heart. And I think that's one major reason why I've had any success over the past 3-4 years, is because that might be in the back of my mind, but that is in the forefront of my heart. And honestly, I think some of the tools that I use now kind of focus on that. It has to make me aware of what I'm going to say. Kind of in a slight tangent. Actually, I'm going to tangent off and answer the last question, because I have a very bad reputation on this show of completely avoiding and not answering any of the questions.
To be fair, whenever we did your interview, I didn't have a set list of questions yet. Now I do.
Yeah, it's I want to make sure. I'm actually, what the viewers at home can't see is I actually have been in our private chat. I'm sending out the questions and prompts of like what were we talking about? Going off of that to make sure I answer the question. What are some tools you've used to grow? One of the biggest ones is I try to do a lot of things for free. I try to utilize everything I can without investing my own money into it. And there are a lot of people out there that are like, man, but spending $5 can just make everything so much easier. You're exactly right. What about all the other 13 things that I need to spend $5 on this month? That's where things get kind of complicated. And I'm trying to pay off debt just like everybody else. I'm trying to, I'm succeeding slowly and surely at paying off debt. And that's another thing I have to catch myself on is speaking life into the proactive and the positive. But I am slowly and surely paying off debt, and I'm very thankful for that. The one thing I will say though is there are so many websites that will help you get the thoughts out of your head. And I believe it's Harvey McKay. I'm Googling things that apply on my second screen. But it says, I think it's Harvey McKay. It says, a dream is just a dream. A goal is a dream with a plan and a deadline. A couple others are a dream written down with a date becomes a goal broken down into steps becomes a plan backed by action makes your dream a reality. One of the things that I have a very hard time with is I'm a dreamer. I go to bed, I dream. I wake up, I dream. It never stops. It is a curse, but it's also a blessing if you know how to utilize it. And one of the things I've done is I made a brain map, and I'm going to make this very short, but a brain map is basically one thought and then 17 different lines that come from it about how everything applies. There are so many amazing free websites that you have and can utilize if you just have a Gmail or a Google email address. Lucid Chart is another great one. It'll help you make flow charts for any processes that you want to work through. It may seem stupid, but sometimes if you think you have a hard time with something, make a standard operating procedure for it. Make an SOP. Make a step-by-step thing. Here's why. Because you're going to get so caught up in the process of some minute detail as a creative. You need to make sure that you're still in that flow chart. Okay. Much like with what Judith said, you need to know your morals. You need to know where you stand. You need to have a guideline. If you need help creating a guideline for a process, there's so many things that you can use for free, and it comes with a Google Suite. And here's the best part. You have any kind of email. I actually have an email right now specifically. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want spam, but I use it every day. I have an alert on my phone, and on my work calendar, I have an alert, and it is just for me to journal. And I have three questions that I ask. It is, what was one thing that I wanted to do better yesterday? What was the circumstance yesterday that is going to affect me? Or what is one thing that I'm proud of from yesterday? That's an and then what is one goal that I have for today? Very simple, 3 things, right? Super simple. Doesn't have to be more than a sentence, but I send an email to myself every morning. And I will tell you something, looking back, looking at all of the small pebbles that were in the road, I now see where my perspective was. And that helps me zoom out and start focusing on the big picture again, because that was something I lost sight of. So just to wrap up, I want to make sure I'm answering this. I'm not going to do it to you again, Josaphat. I'm dead serious. You can ball on a budget. You can make sure that you are utilizing free resources to get things out of your head and also push yourself forward in so many different ways. 2, journal. I will tell every single person to journal. It is an outstanding resource. Pen to paper is always best for me, but take a step back if you have to do voice to text if you're in a hurry. That's also outstanding. And then 3, did I say 3? No, 3. Make sure that you are surrounding yourself with people that if something doesn't seem right to you in your mental headspace along this journey, that you have that safety net. One of the things that I have is it's called Soup Day. I'm very proud of it. And these two know what Soup Day is. And we have goals that are set on Soup Day. And I will reach out to people and I'll say, hey, throughout the year, throughout the year. We meet once a year. And I'll say, hey, how's your soup day go? You have to have people that'll hold you accountable even when you won't hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the most invaluable tool that you can have. I'm very thankful that you are one of those hosts of that. And I'm very thankful for Hey Rockstar. Thank you for that steel that, that iron that sharpens this iron right here. And I'm very, very thankful that I've never wanted to call you a tool, and I don't. That sounds bad. I swear that's not my intention. But I am very. Please don't quote that. Please, whatever anybody does, do not quote that one.
That's gonna be my next quote.
That's a meme.
That's a meme. I never wanted to call you a tool. I don't know. But I am so thankful for you, Hey Rockstar, and I'm so thankful for the tool in this toolbox that I have, because you're a tremendous asset. And once again, brother, happy 100. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sir.
Alex basically gave us the whole utility belt of the Batman utility belt. Scott, would you like to add anything to that, or you just gonna take one of his? Just kidding.
No, it's interesting going last, because getting to listen to you guys, it's cool to find that the tools that I have picked up without consulting anybody or taking anybody for direction are also being picked up by others, but being used a little bit differently. Like I got to heard an alternate version of the things that I'm applying right now. So I'm going to figure out my plan of approach. A couple different tools. I have one key area of life that I have recently decided is my top priority, that I need to see significant change in it. And this is an area where historically I've experienced a lot of pain, a lot of disappointment. And I have been first I made the decision that something has to change. Second, I went to God and I said, okay, God, this has to change. What in me needs to change? What in my life needs to change for this? And I started praying and I started journaling about it. And some ideas have come to me. Oh, my second prayer was, what needs to change? How do I change it? Because I've tried to change myself in many ways in the past, and in some I've been very successful, and in others I have not gotten anywhere. And this feels like it has the potential to be very different. I've seen fruit that feels different this time. And tools that I am leveraging for this growth. I am leveraging journaling and contemplation on a written page. I think that there's something to that. It takes us deeper in our thought. It keeps us from going off in 1,000 different directions. It keeps us anchored to something right in front of us. I am employing a system of checks. First, I'm currently developing it. I leave it open to be modified as I go along. I think vision needs to be flexible and malleable because circumstances change and our understanding of what we're pursuing may change. But I have my written goal, what I want. I have my preferred timeline. I hold that with an open hand because ultimately it's not fully in my control. I have I'm developing a list of rules for my pursuit of it because I don't want to win the outcome and lose myself in the process.
Okay.
I am employing accountability in taking advantage of having other people around me who see me to help keep me in check if I start to go off or deviate, I want more than just my own eyes, because I know I have blind spots. So I have people around me who know me and can keep me in check. I have what I've written that I will continually reference as a waypoint. Say, am I still in alignment with this? Does this need to be modified? And then one of the most significant tools, I think, that I have not fully leveraged before is visualization.
Mm.
And I want to be very clear about what I mean by visualization, because there are a number of different approaches. What I do not mean is I do not mean manifestation.
Okay.
There is a school of thought where what you visualize and attach your emotions to, you can manifest that in the reality around you. The things that I want to see in reality around me change, I take to my Heavenly Father in prayer. I put them in His hands, because His hands are bigger than mine and His wisdom is better than mine. So I take it to Him, I ask, and I submit it. What I do mean by visualization is an intentional act for changing my heart and my mind. What I have attempted in the past and found to not work very well is trying to recode my mind through language. Just speaking things, just saying the truth that I know is true. But what I found was an issue is that I was wrestling with a disconnection or a decoupling of my mind and my heart. In my mind, I could know all of the right things, but my heart felt differently. And when your mind and your heart are not in alignment, it makes things much more challenging. So what I have found to be useful is taking a visual imagination into it, and more than that, taking my emotional imagination into it, if you will. I stumbled on it one time when I was trying to get myself to stick to written plans. I've historically hated written plans and rebelled against them because it feels like oppression against my heart, or it felt like, not continually. What I did one night was, instead of writing down what I was going to do the next day, I narrated it to myself. I visualized myself doing it, and I told myself I was doing it. When I wake up, I am doing this. And it flowed so easily and so naturally when I got up. Like, it was a paradigm shift. So to bring it back in and consolidate and finish my tool story, what I'm doing now is I am taking those fundamental truths that I know in the language and the rational side of my brain. I am creating visual imagination to represent those truths, or project those truths into my expected outcome, my expected reality. And I'm also practicing feeling emotions in alignment with that. And my musician friends will understand this. I would describe our emotions as almost being like strings on an instrument. And if you take a guitar and you sing a specific note into that guitar, like an acoustic guitar, the string on the guitar that is tuned to that note will start vibrating. And I think very often people are used to the strings of their emotions being played by other things that are singing into them and causing them to resonate and vibrate and feel things. But one of the things that I am learning, or I have learned, but I'm developing a deeper intimacy of understanding, is that I can choose to feel how I want to. I can create feeling
Yeah.
in my heart through intentionality. And that act of intentionally sculpting the emotions I want to feel, projecting how I want to change and how I want to be different, really feels like just opening a door of who I already am that had been maybe shut off by false beliefs and negative experiences.
That's very powerful, man. Where did you pick that up? How did you word it out? Visualize imagination, or was it just something that has come to you through just practice?
Um, I think some of it I've stumbled upon and some of it has been taught. The some of it that has perhaps been stumbled upon, I would say I've experienced it in artistry, that a lot of what I have done as far as in inventing and developing ideas artistically, it's come through my visual imagination first. Um, One of the other aspects of it is I have friends who first went through a program, and then I have put some time into a program that teaches teaches you how to heal certain kinds of illnesses,
Mm.
um, effectively through this process that I've been talking about. I want to be careful about describing it because it would be very easy to take it in kind of a woo-woo sense,
Yeah, yeah.
and say that, like, oh, just what you believe will happen, and there's elements of that that are kind of true, um, or that it's a mystic spiritual thing, and again, I'm not discounting the spiritual, but what I'm focusing on is that there are very real mechanics in your body that are electrical and chemical, and what you do with your emotions and your beliefs can sculpt those electrical and chemical reactions within your body and change the state of your body.
I believe
Um,
that.
so there are types of illnesses that you can heal by changing the electrical and chemical states of your body. And some of those, like my super short story, the friends who shared this program with me initially, they had been poisoned by some chemicals that were used to clean up the BP oil spill. Doctors confirmed their illness, told them they had zero chance of recovery. It was what it was. They would never have normal lives again. And they discovered this program, um, and started applying it, and they have made what they've described as like 98% recovery. They get a mild headache once in a while, whereas it was debilitating. So basically, I took this idea of like, hey, wait a minute. If this can be applied to change something as tangible as a chronic illness, then surely this can also be applied to change my mental and emotional states and response patterns in this specific area of life that I want to see change.
Thank you, man. I was gonna ask, if you ever would like to set up and create a video masterclass for it, let's talk. I would love to sit down because this is that's a powerful tool to use. Um, two things, and I know I need to go to end the show. Oh, and we don't have to, but we're going at 90-minute mark. But I want to be respectful for you guys' time. But two things came to mind. First off, this quote, I remember someone at our church once, a special speaker once said it, and I still use it, and I teach upon this, how the playground of the prophetic is imagination. Imagination is a gift from God, and it's the playground of the prophetic. And another thing, and this is just me spitballing, and hopefully this doesn't get me canceled. Could it be that the reason why a lot of Americans, or even today, people are susceptible and getting sick is simply because we're not given the chance to think. We're just constantly flooded and bombarded by media, entertainment, and we never take the time to think and imagine anymore, and especially imagine about the good, because what we're being bombarded with is a lot of negative, a lot of sickness, a lot of fear, a lot of hate, a lot of those things to distract us. But anyway, that's just a thought, and maybe we can talk about that in a future show, or if you guys want to say amen. Not the last thing I wanted to say. No one mentioned this tool, but I believe this is a very powerful tool, is mentorship. I believe finding good mentors is a way to fold time in your favor, to save yourself time to get to where you want to go to. When you find someone who's been there, done the work, and is willing to invest in you, their knowledge, their wisdom, so that you can learn and you can grow and do what you want to do a lot faster. Anyone want to chime in any little thoughts or ideas before I ask the last question?
That's always been my thoughts about books as well. It's like people don't like to read. They don't like to buy books. I'm like, bro, they already saved you 20 years in life. It took them 20 years to write that book and figure it out. And they're giving you, the blueprint on how it worked for them. And it just gives you ideas. So yeah, you're exactly right. Mentorship. I'm associated. I started a real estate business with my friend. She's a freaking expert in all this. And it's just like, I'm taking giant steps, talking to people, having conversations that I never thought I would have. And it's super cool. It's super, super cool because, it helps you. Like you said, it folds your time. What is it? It folds.
Oh yeah,
your
it just
time
folds time, and you get done
at a faster
quicker with
pace.
what you want to do.
Yeah, you get to places at a faster pace. So, yeah, that's so good, man. Thank you. So I got to jump off. I smell the
All right.
tacos in my kitchen.
Thank you for your time, Eli.
Hey, congratulations once again on 100 episodes. That's huge, man. That's awesome. And Alex, Scott, pleasure meeting you guys. You guys are so deep, so profound, so stable in what you're speaking, and it was very encouraging. So much love and many blessings, like Hossa says, and we'll see you guys soon. And hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em horns. We're doing good. We're doing good. I wanted a quick shout out to Mark Anthony Estrada on Instagram. When you were mentioning something, Alex, he kind of gave you a preach. And then, of course, he said, I agree to what I was sharing earlier. And he mentioned resource. I believe that's what he's bringing in. That's one of his tools that he has, is the different resources he can use, whatnot. But thank you, Mark Anthony, for I almost called you Eric. Mark Anthony for chiming in on Instagram and watching us. And I guess just to end the show, gentlemen, the last question I'm going to go and post it on here is, if you have anything, is what are you working on now that you'd like to promote? I'll go first if you want me to. I have no. When Alex called you a tool, I said resource. I'm not a tool, Alex. I'm a resource. Thank you, Mark Anthony.
I knew I had it wrong.
Oh, all right. So, what I've been working on, I've already shared this with. I'm not sure if I got a chance to share this with Scott when we were last talking, but Alex, I noticed there was a need in the Christian circles, especially around men. There is a need for men who have lost their masculinity, or have lost mentorship and lost people to look up to. And I went to a men's retreat earlier this year, and at this retreat they brought in some amazing speakers. I got to sit into all of them and listen to them. They were powerful men of God bringing powerful messages, but everyone kept addressing the married man. Everyone kept addressing the married father. And I started looking around like, well, there's a few of us who are not in our 20s, we're in our 30s and 40s, and maybe older, that for whatever reason, maybe they're widowed or separated, divorced, or just never found a time to get married. They find themselves in this state of singleness. And some of them are fathers who are single, and like, well, where's their voice? Where's the person to speak to them? And in trying to figure out who I've entered as a speaker, but also now I'm getting to the coaching aspect. I realize, well, who's a better mentor for them than me? I've learned to find my power in the area of singleness. I've learned to treat this as a sacred time in my life, not as a what's wrong with you, but more as a this is my chance to do the resources, to do the meditation, to do the visualization, to work on something greater and decide what I want and be that resource to the world. And so what I'm working on now, I'm not going to release the title yet, but I'm creating a community for single men of faith to help empower them right now as they are doing life. So a place where they can compare notes, where they can come and share and find people of common ground. I kind of joked around that I might create a commercial where where there's one 20-year-old something is going to church, and he's like, I'm going, where's the singles group? And there's a sign that says singles group, go over here. And he's going to the singles group, and he finally goes to the room, and when he walks in, it's just a room of toddlers. Because sometimes some of us who are in our 30s and 40s, we feel like, the college and career group that they have, there's a big gap in what we are interested in. They haven't even done so much life. Nothing against them, but sometimes we want someone in our age, or someone who is weathered with what we have gone to, who is also single, and we want to compare notes and talk to them. And and sometimes we just feel that big age gap. I know that I felt that a lot sometimes at our church back at or the church that I went to back in Nashville. But I found my people. I found people that I could rub shoulders. I found mentors that were business minded. So that's where I spent most of my time with, and less time with all these little gatherings that are going around of hanging outs and such. Nothing against it. It's just the mindset's different. And so I'm like, this is what I want. I want them to find a place where they can be open and vulnerable and share what they're going with. It's not a place to preach. It's a place to compare notes, because we all are men of faith. We all have a right to the Bible, and we just want to talk about what we're using. And then, of course, I'm working on another program for those who are stuck in this season of their lives as a single man of faith, who have lost their power, have lost their purpose. I have a program that I'm working to launch January 1st, so that they can then find the resource, find the tools, find the mentorship they need to find their power, to find their purpose, and to live the greatest life. They're like the way I like to say, live their greatest story. And that's what I'm going to start promoting. Come in. That's what I'm working on. So just keep your eyes open for that. So if you know any single men of faith who are looking for something like that, send them my way. Who else would like to promote something now?
Scott, I'll rock, paper, scissors you for it, man. I mean, either one.
Shout out to Bryn Holt, a blast from the past, friend who we grew up. We were in youth group together back in the day. And she just mentioned on Instagram, I love that. That will be a blessing to many. And I believe that is something that he's put on my heart to move forward. And of course, Alex is sorry, not Alex, Mark. Anthony Estrada is saying that yes, sir. I already gave him a peek on what I'm working on, so it's gonna be some good stuff. So who's arm wrestling? Who's next?
Let's see.
All right, Scott. What
Alex froze. All right, me. Let's see. As I mentioned, a lot of what I'm doing right now is beneath the surface. The roots are going down. The fruit is in formation. The fruit is not in the market stalls. Things that I am working on. There is the video game consoles as art stuff. Getting ready to dig back into that. I have some examples on my Instagram at Spectral Bonsai.
Type it in real quick.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. What I'm doing now is better than what's on Instagram, but I haven't gone through the process of taking proper pictures and editing and uploading yet. I have a couple other creative projects that are not ready really to be discussed.
Did I spell it right?
Let's see. Where is?
Just in the chat.
Take the I out after the TR. It's SPECTRAL Here, I got you.
Cool. Thank you. Then I actually love what you're working on, Jose, and I would like to talk to you more about that. Something that I am working on with a couple other people, and again, it's not open to the public yet, but we are forming a group for events for Christian singles.
Ooh.
And the idea of it is not just to have a mixer, because there's plenty of other mixers, plenty of other social gatherings out there. But the idea of it is to have a formal space to get together and have discussions about the issues that are causing division within the genders. And some of the struggles that each of the genders are dealing with. I've had discussions with men, I've had some discussions with women, and most of what I've heard is they are coming at it from completely different perspectives. And I think really, if this is an area that we want to see healing in and want to see God move, then we need to have discussions and get everybody on the same page. I think that serves as a foundation to invite God into it and see what he wants to do. So not ready to roll, but looking forward to it.
Thank you for promoting that. Looking forward to see what's going to come from that and possibly partnering up with you guys. Mr. Tinker, the fourth.
I was trying to change my link to get my link tree in here because I saw you do it with Scott and it looks really cool. I'm not going to lie.
All right. What's your link tree?
I don't. That's the thing, man. I have no idea right now. I feel like I am new at this. I apologize. You know what? Here's what I'm going to do. First and foremost, I do want to talk to you at another point in time, Josaphat, on the comment that you made about maybe Americans are so sick because we consume so much media. You and I have a lot to talk about because I agree with that one. Also, a good mentor, going back to that, was a good mentor is just a multiplier. It's how much it can multiply you. And I totally agree with you. Is finding the right one. Okay. I have a few things that I'm working on right now. The first thing that I'm actively working on right now is multimedia presence. So that would be Kinder Spirits Season 2. I'm changing up the format. I'm changing up who I'm speaking with, how I'm communicating, and keeping it very simple, boiled down. I'm calling them commute length podcasts. So it's going to be just short, consumable ways to just brighten up. And as I say, creating moments of mass optimism. And if we can get a couple more momos in there, then it's going to be a whole lot better. Hey, you did it. That's awesome. Thank you. It's so much better. The other thing is I'm working on I'm deep in writing right now for a couple of different artists, not just myself, which is a very cool thing. I've never thought I'd be able to say that, which I'm very proud of that. I also want to just bring up one other thing. There's a program that I reached out to a group of like-minded individuals, and we're going to start working on building content in a multimedia fashion. Josaphat, I actually reached out to you about this. I'm going to keep the name out for now just to make sure that we can get some content prior to releasing it. The biggest thing is it actually ties into my next project. We are just out of the first trimester, expecting our first child. So I am about to put on a new hat, and it's going to be a dad hat. So it's going to be interesting.
Daddy Alex.
It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard anybody say. All right. Thank you for that one, Hosa. The thing is, though, Scott, get that smile off your. Oh man, I've lost them all now. Jeez, oh Pete's. There it goes. Oh gosh. This is what I was going to say is I'm working on a few different things, but one of the things is I'm realizing just how difficult it is for men to keep relationships with other men if they are not part of their their child's events, or if distance gets between them, or honestly, life. It's such a lame excuse, but all of us use it. Life gets in the way.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to maintain relationships with people nowadays. I mean, half of my relationships to my guy friends are, sorry I didn't respond, I thought it to, and I'm a jerk. Actually, both of you have gotten that text message from me within a week.
Followed with, are you mad?
Are you mad? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I'm sorry about that.
I'm like, no, man.
Do you need anything? I'm so sorry. Can I get you guys anything? But all that to be said, it's very difficult because there's a lack there. And honestly, that's something I'm looking to build upon with this group of guys and this group of like-minded individuals, not just guys. So that's a major project that I'm hoping to launch before the end of the year. Another thing that I don't know how best to say this. It's a project, but it's more of a personal project. I very, very much want to start getting back to holding myself accountable.
Mm.
And that might be one of the hardest projects that I can have, because if only I know how, this is going to sound so cheesy, that only I know how much I judge myself. And I'm so tired of that critique, and that being a critique and not being confidence. So my goal is, I'm going to work. My biggest project for this upcoming year is not necessarily something that everyone's going to see on the surface, but I am stepping back a little bit to make sure, as Scott said something about the roots. Make sure that your roots, Scott, I forget how you said it, but it was beautiful.
In short, my roots are going down. The fruit is developing, but it's not in the market yet.
That I like that. Where's he at? That one right there. No, real talk. That's beautiful. And a blade of grass, the roots only go, about 3 inches deep. They may go miles long, but it's really only about 2-3 inches deep. The roots of an oak tree go, quarter mile, if not more. And I really want to stop living my life like a blade of grass and start living like an oak tree. So that's my biggest project. Outside of being a dad, which is the weirdest thing I ever. You both know me so much, and I know that you know that I'm serious about this. This is the weirdest sensation that I possibly could have stated. But so yeah, those are my big projects for this upcoming year. And if you do want to follow any of the music, the media, anything of the sort, follow this link tree that is right here. You'll find everything. Check down at the bottom. You'll also be able to see all of the podcasts that I put up. But I would be amiss if I did not say one more time, Host Fat, real quickly, man. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being not only a mentor, but a role model, a brother. I'm trying to look this way so it looks like I'm looking at you, because that's what we do. Full transparency, 100 episodes is just a drop in the bucket for what's going to be coming. But most importantly, I just want you to know I'm so proud to watch the success that you have. And I can't wait to see it keep going.
Appreciate you, Alex. One last comment from Instagram from Mr. Mark Estrada. He mentioned that he definitely wants to connect with Alex regarding his philanthropy nonprofit work. Do I have your permission to share your contact with him?
Absolutely, 1,000%, my dude. Absolutely.
Once I get his, then I'll do the swap later on. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this has been episode 100 of Hey Rockstar. The test of time. We've survived it. I want to thank my special guests that we had here. Of course, Scott Kinman, Alex Tinker, the fourth. Also, we had Eliu Eli Emiliano from Tejano Faith y Música y Más. I probably butchered that. I'm so sorry. Judith Espinosa from San Antonio. Just thank y'all for being here. We had other guests that wanted to be here, but because of other scheduling, they couldn't, but that's okay. I think it's time to start bringing back guests and having other topics of discussion, because things are changing and I'm excited for what the future holds. So Until next time, all the way from Andrews, America, and Nashville, Tennessee, my other home away from home. We just want to wish everyone much love and many blessings. Catch y'all next time.